Hello and welcome to the August subscription tasting video. I'm really happy to taste these coffees with you once again. And for those of you who don't know what a coffee subscription is, you can go to our website, there's a link below. You can subscribe to coffees that I pick out every month. We send it automatically to you at the first Wednesday of the month. And you can subscribe from 1 to 6 bags. You can pause and stop the subscription at any time. And you get the chance to taste some really unique coffees that a lot of our regular customers do not get to taste unless they subscribe, because we do send out some exclusive lots only to our subscribers. Cool, let's get to it. This month we are actually tasting, maybe you've guessed it already, coffees from the Caballero family in Honduras. They just arrived our warehouse in July, so I'm really happy to share these really fresh coffees with you. And also different cultivars of coffee from the same farm. And that means you can actually taste different flavors coming from the same farm, because the trees that the coffee cherries were picked from are actually different genetically. And that means the Catuaí, for instance, that we're going to send out for all the one-bag subscribers, that's kind of the Caballero's basic standard coffee. It doesn't mean that it's a bad coffee. It just means it's a cultivar that is very common to get in Honduras, that many farmers grow. At least traditionally. In the newer days, people have been replanting with hybrids that are more resistant against leaf rust, because the Catuaí is not resistant against the fungus that is attacking the coffee trees. But if you manage the farms well, like Moises and Marysabel, you will produce a lot of great coffee with this cultivar. And it's a coffee that is kind of more traditional in flavor, so a little bit more chocolatey and sweet and kind of coffee flavored coffee. It's a typical kind of breakfast coffee for me. I love to drink this when I wake up, when I bake my sourdough bread in the morning, because it's uncomplicated, just really sweet, rich and creamy. And it gives me a lot of joy and pleasure to drink such a clean and smooth coffee in the morning. So you guessed it already, I've already talked about it. The first coffee we're sending out to all our subscribers is the Catuaí 2022 harvest. It's picked in February, meticulously processed by Moises. This is actually a washed coffee. All the coffees are washed, but they use a mechanical demucilage remover, which means when you depulp the coffee cherries, you remove most of the mucilage that is still sticking on the coffee beans with a mechanical kind of friction machine. And then afterwards, Moises started to ferment the coffees, because there's still a little bit of mucilage left on the beans. So he started fermenting it overnight, and then he washes the coffee. He puts them through a centrifuge to remove all the excess water, and then the coffees are dried on raised beds under shade for up to 20 to 25 days. And because he does this very meticulous process, the coffees are super clean and smooth. But also in the later kind of years, when they started fermenting a little bit, you do get a little bit of this kind of fruit flavor in the coffee that is a little bit more pronounced than it used to be. So if you know this coffee from us for many years, if you have been tasting it for many years, like I have, you would have noticed that in the past they were a little bit more herbal in flavor, whereas now they're a little bit more fruity and kind of milk chocolatey. They have this kind of flavor of like dried fruits, like dried figs, raisins and stuff like that, which I really enjoy. Let's taste it. And I'm now doing a cupping. If you don't know what a cupping is, we have a tutorial on our YouTube channel. So check that out. It's super simple. We put 11 grams of coffee in, just pour 180 grams of hot water, boiling water on top. Let it steep for a couple of minutes, stir, skim, and then you're ready to taste. And if you do a shared cupping with other people, it's wise to use a cup in these COVID days. So you take a spoonful of coffee, put it into your cup, let the spoon rest, and then you drink from the cup. The more you slurp, the more air you get in, and it's easier to get the aromatics from this coffee. And immediately when I drink this coffee, I feel that it has a great structure. It means it's sweet, but it has a very nice acidity, and it's kind of a structured mouthfeel. You get a lot of these kind of milk chocolate flavors, a little bit of roasted nuts, and definitely some dried fruits in there. Very pleasant and super creamy and super sweet. If you only subscribe to one bag, I highly recommend when you do a cupping like this, put not just one coffee on the table. Put another coffee besides it. Doesn't matter what it is. It makes it a lot easier to pick out the flavors in the coffee. So you can put instant coffee, you know, an espresso pod of whatever you like next to this coffee, and you can taste it side by side. It's so much more fun and easier to describe the flavors that you can enjoy when you drink the coffee. So the first bag, Catuaí variety, you can see on the t-shirt that we just made, that this is varieties from the Caballero family, and Catuaí is their more traditional and basic one, and they produce quite a lot of this coffee. The second coffee we are sending out, we're actually sending out 2 coffees because we bought 2 lots and we didn't have enough to fulfill the 2-bag subscription program, so we had to combine them. They're quite similar in flavor because they are cultivars from the same country, from Kenya. So it's the SL28 and the Batian. Batian is a hybrid produced in Kenya or developed in Kenya, where they have used SL28 as one of the plants for breeding this new hybrid cultivar. So they are quite similar in flavor and they're quite enjoyable. They have some subtle differences for sure. So let's taste the SL28 first. I'm almost tasting from the spoon now because that's what I'm used to. And right away, coming from the Catuaí, which is more like a milk chocolatey, nutty, dried fruit flavor, this immediately is a little bit more juicy. And by juicy, I mean like it's a little bit more like drinking fruit juice. And the Catuaí is more like drinking a hot chocolate. So it's a little bit more juicy. It has definitely some red berry flavors. Acidity is a little bit more tart. That means kind of the same sensation when you eat grapes, like red grapes. And it has a slight floral note to it. So maybe you had this coffee last year. I feel like this year this coffee is a little bit more pronounced in flavor. Last year the flavors were a little bit more muted. So for me this SL28 from Moises and Marysabel is a little bit higher quality this year actually. And for me it's hard to say why that is because I actually didn't visit them this year. But I can only suspect that the climate was a little bit different. The plants probably had a little bit better time when growing the coffees. And that's probably why the quality is a little bit higher. Really looking forward to coming back to them next year. I'm going to visit them during the harvest and probably make some good videos from their farms. So the SL28, expect a little bit more berry flavors, a little bit more kind of higher acidity, some florality there, and a little bit more fruit than the Catuaí. And that's because SL28, you know, it's famous for its kind of blackcurrant flavor. This is not like a Kenyan SL28. It's a little bit more subtle in flavor and not as intense in acidity. You probably recognize the SL28 from last month's subscription when we sent out 3 different Kenyan coffees. Now, the Batian, also a Kenyan cultivar. It's a hybrid, so that means it's resistant against leaf rust. At least that's what they thought when they developed it. It turns out maybe it's not. But it's quite a new hybrid that is now gaining popularity in Kenya because it's producing well and shows some resistance towards leaf rust. So, this definitely has a little bit more kind of citrus, zesty flavor. It's not bitter, but it's kind of like the aromatics you get from orange peel and stuff like that. Still with a little bit of these red berry flavors. And a subtle floral note in this one as well, I think. It's very, very kind of, yeah, citrusy, I would say. Compared to the Catuaí, it's much more citrusy. Acidity is not as tart as the SL28. A bit more pleasant, I would say. And when you get back to the Catuaí now, you can clearly taste this is kind of milk chocolate, dried fruits, nuts. Whereas the Batian, it also has this kind of slightly melted butter aromatics, especially coming from the Catuaí, you pick it out straight away, which really makes the coffee a little bit more complex and more kind of enjoyable to drink. I find that, you know, my favorite coffees always has this kind of hint of melted butter inside, and it just makes the coffee taste much more delicious. Let's taste the SL28 again. Yeah, very kind of berry driven. The Batian, a little bit more citrusy. Kind of a slight herbal note, like when you eat those kind of slightly herbal tangerines. And that's the kind of herbalness I get in this coffee. Super delicious. So if you subscribe to 2 bags, you might get the SL28 or you might get the Batian. We don't have enough for everyone, so we have to kind of mix a little bit and send out to everyone as far as the stock can hold. Now the last coffee we're sending out to the 3-bag subscribers and up is the Java cultivar from the Caballero. And we have sent this out before, and some people just love this coffee. Some people are a little bit more skeptic. I have to say, this year it is never been this good as this year. The beans look much bigger and longer than usual, and looks much more like the Java we sent out from Tamana a couple of months ago. It also tastes a little bit more kind of fruity and complex, and still has this kind of green tea, white chocolate, floral notes that it's quite recognizable in this Java coffee. So let's taste it. Oh, I really love it this year. It's got a kind of nice florality, not like Ethiopian coffees or geishas. It's a different type of florality. And this kind of, it reminds me so much when you eat the green Kit Kat chocolates you get in Japan. That has a kind of biscuity center, and it's a white chocolate with matcha tea. So think green tea, white chocolate, biscuits, stuff like that. And also a little bit floral, but also a little bit fruity this year. I really like this coffee. So Java is actually a cultivar. All Arabicas kind of come from Africa, but Java traveled to Indonesia, came back to Africa, then to Nicaragua or Central America. And then Moises got seeds from a farmer in Nicaragua, I think, or Bolivia, I don't remember exactly. And planted this cultivar some years ago, and we have been buying it for quite a few years now. And I have to say again, the quality this year is top notch. So really good coffee this year. Let's compare it to the Catuaí. Milk, chocolate, nuts, dried fruits, for sure. It's so evident when you go back and forth. Let's taste the Java now. Yeah, really pleasant, smooth, really juicy as well. It's kind of mouth-watering, and definitely this floral white chocolate green tea flavor. So those are the coffees we're sending out to all the subscribers in August. If you want to learn more about the subscription, check out our website. If you want to buy one of these t-shirts, you can also go to our websites. And hopefully these coffees will reach you sooner rather than later. I know that mail has been slightly slow during summer, and that's because people are on summer vacation, I guess. But hopefully the mail will be a little bit faster in August, so that these fresh coffees will reach you as soon as possible. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoy the coffees, and see you next month.